Good morning, guys. What's up? What's up? What's up? Folks, um, Andrew was gracious enough to let me do the intros. Um, can we all settle down and get into the second session of learning this morning? Thank you. I'm Utkarsh with SiteRecon, CEO and co-founder. Started the company 3 years ago. If you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see my bio read, map nerd, servant entrepreneur to landscaping industry. My friend here, Patrick Spusta, director of sales from Gardens of Babylon. Funny story how we met 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago in Boston.
That's right. And we just hit it off, and I realized I talk about things from the framework side, from the product side, and Patrick really makes it very practical. And we are hoping to bring out this vibe out for you guys here. All right, let's get into it. This Sunday, I was at the Grand Canyon, and there's a museum. When you're at the South Rim, you go from Mather's Point to the Bright Angel Lodge, and this museum basically tells you about the history of the canyon. The model you see here is like a 3D of the canyon. It's got the Colorado River in it. It's got all its tributaries in it. And I was playing around with it. I took my finger and I placed it at the top of the rim, and I followed the tributary down. It joined the Colorado River, and then I followed the river to the end of the map. And a profound realization dawned upon me that I was touching 1.8 billion years of our planet's history right there. To give you context, life on this planet is about 700 million years old. And in that moment, I realized how small I was. And I also realized that is essentially what our purpose is at SiteRecon, to help you touch and feel that property and communicate that experience to others in your team. One way we look at it is this framework called the journey of the property. It starts right at the beginning when this opportunity comes in through the door and your sales guy is supposed to put a bid on it. The first product we rolled out 3 years ago was AI measurements. You place an order to get your measurements, just like you place an order to get your pizza online. How many people in this room, or like your companies, how many companies in this room are using some sort of AI measuring tool right now? Don't be shy. We all want to see a market trend here. Quite a few. 3 years ago, this room would have been empty. If I had asked you guys to raise your hands, no one would have done it. But now you see this is catching on. The guys who raised their hands right now in this room, I'll bet you anything, they are at the top 10% in their markets, probably even better than that. And they're gobbling up market share just as a result of this one tool. Your BD has the map. He puts together a cool proposal, and he wins the job. What happens next? You got your account managers. Your account managers got to kick off. They got to plan what they need to do on the site the first time they go there. They have the takeoff with them. They walk the site. They take pictures. They take notes, and they pin it on the map. If you think about your experience on site, there are 3 elements to it, really. You're standing at a point, right? You have a thought in your mind, and you're looking at something. Let's say it's a leaking irrigation system or a service issue that you just spotted. Maybe the shrubs need to be pruned. And these 3 things, if you can capture on the site, then that's absolutely sufficient to help anyone else in your team understand what they need to do on site when they get there. So the account manager being able to very conveniently convey to the crew what needs to be done the next time they're on site, that gets solved. You got irrigation techs, you got production managers, you got a lot of others in your team who are going onto the site. Every time they're on site, they're putting eyes on it. They are collecting information, but it's in their minds. And that is the first reason why you should have a mapping culture in your team, because if you have this culture of putting stuff down in a digital format inside an app that sits in a cloud, then everyone else in your team can leverage that data later on. So the data that the business developer put together is used by the account manager. The account manager's maps are used by the production manager, used by the irrigation techs, used by the crew in the field, and they're all contributing to it. We've all been talking about robots. We've all been talking about drones. The guys here from Space Age Labs, they talked about how tracking devices in vests can help you get to production rates. And all of that, you will never be able to leverage to its full capacity if you don't have a mapping infrastructure in place. It's absolutely fundamental to your business. You run an outdoor services company. Folks in the enterprise space solved their location intelligence problem 10 years ago when ArcGIS basically became a ubiquitous thing across cities, across oil and gas companies, utilities, and so on. But the problem with bringing that tool in this space is that it doesn't deal with the kind of detail that you have in your properties. Setting it up in a system like SiteRecon essentially helps you take all the turf maps you have across your portfolio and say, oh, I want to think about which robotic products are best for my company given the book of business I'm servicing currently. Looking at the open areas, looking at slopes, whatnot. And basis that, either choose to select different kinds of properties in the market now that you have a reservation going on with the robotics company so that you can put that product when it's off the assembly line. You churn through your portfolio to make sure you can leverage that technology. Just an example here to talk about where this thing is going. Obviously, the data is going to be collected by the robot in the field, and you will want to put it on a map and leverage it against everything that your team has been doing over the years. This is the console of an account manager. Look at the level of detail here. You can obviously see the high-resolution imagery. You can see the photos taken in the field. You can see all the takeoffs here. You can see his notes on the side. This guy is a beast, by the way. He's looking at like 17 map views in a single property. He's got everything in here, right from irrigation to production plans to his own notes. Every site visit he does, he creates a map out of it. And he's your peer, and he's doing it. Obviously, once all that data is created, you want to take it to other systems. It's not going to be sitting in a single mapping platform. So we built out integrations with industry softwares. We integrated with Zapier so that you can take the information into non-industry CRMs like HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, and we are just getting started. Our hope is, as more and more applications, use cases come up for mapping, we'll have the opportunity to integrate with more and more tools. And people are running with it, man. Like, imagine being able to map all trees in the city of San Diego, all public trees along the sidewalk in a matter of 4 weeks. I mean, the AI piece plays a big part here. And this doesn't get talked often, but the first AI revolution for the industry has already happened, and it happened in mapping. And it started 3 years ago when we came into the market. And you can see what's going on here, like the kind of scale you're seeing, like 90,000 homes. We did it in 3 weeks, by the way. And this company was able to send out mailers to all their prospects in the area and basically say, well, this is your quote. Do you want to call us? If you do, here's a discount. And obviously, the conversion rate on that kind of marketing is like, from what we got from our customer, 2 to 2.5x on their regular returns. So this is all very overwhelming, but to go back, really, it's starting here. When your guys are putting a property in the system and doing takeoffs, or it's starting here with your sites you're already servicing, and your guys are going onto the site, putting eyes on it, and you want to capture that information so that others can act up on it. One great way to build a culture of mapping in your team is there will be one guy who's probably going to get very expert with it, And it's great to have him educate the rest of the guys in the team. And so here's a video. Nick from Rockaway, shout out, brother. Thank you for letting me hang around when you were recording this training. So this video talks about how Nick uses the app in the field to document stuff he's seeing. And then there are some other videos of business leaders who've deployed AI measurements in their sales process, and those videos are talking about the benefits that they're getting out from it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nick Baum with Rockaway here with Utkarsh with SiteRecon. So we're gonna go through today, kind of show you guys how we use our SiteRecon and Plato app, coming onto a property for a quality assurance visit, how we document things that we're seeing, whether they be good or bad, the communication to our crews as well as our customer, and how that plays a big part in the quality of service that we provide. So we're here at Villas in Nocatee, gonna go ahead and do a quality assurance visit. Once I get into that, I'm gonna start creating notes. So my first note is always an awesome template. Then I have these really great slider bars. So I can say turf quality, my turf is looking really, really good. I'm gonna go ahead and slide that up to 5, it's excellent. You know, I can say bed weeds, so I can start taking a look at my beds. I can say, I can see a few weeds. We're in kind of a rainy period right now. I'm kind of okay with that. All in all, as I look around, don't see too much. I'm gonna put it as a 4. It's good, but it's not excellent. It's not weed free. So then I continue to go down. I look at my edges. Is my edging good? Are the guys edging everything? The edging's crisp, everything's looking great. We're gonna slide that to a 5. My turf weeds, going back to our turf quality. Looking around, I don't see any turf weeds, nothing really popping up. Our agronomics do a great job. That's usually almost always a 5 for me. My last slider bar on this overall property assessment is the shrub health. All in all, my shrub health is looking great. So at that point in time, I will go ahead and hit my next button, which is gonna allow me to place a pin of where I am. So at that point in time, once I go through my property assessment, I'll start looking around for notes that I would make. So, you know, do we need to put some shrubs over here? Yeah, we may want to. So I'll add another note. We'll call it a proposed solution, which is kind of how we word that. And say, hey, you know, I think it'd be a really good idea if we planted a few loropetalum in this area. So what I can do is I can make another note. I'll go ahead and label it proposed solution. We'll use 11 3-gallon loropetalum in this area. Rough estimate. Usually pretty close though. At that point in time, I'll go ahead and I'll take a picture of the area. Awesome. So usually when I take a picture and it's for a proposed solution, I want to go ahead and draw in what I'm proposing, not only so the customer can kind of see a general location, but once they sign off on it, I can then hand that over to my landscape installation crew. They know exactly where it's going to go. They know exactly where the plants are going to be. It lessens the amount that I have to talk to them. It also lessens their confusion at the end of the day.
Easier follow-ups.
Exactly, yeah, much easier follow-ups, much less communication required. As much as we all like talking with each other, it helps. So I'll go ahead and I'll draw in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going really simple with just some good old-fashioned X's. 10 loropetalums. Go ahead and put that into my notes. And the great thing is because I'm being tracked with GPS on this property, my pin gets really close to where I am already. I'll just go ahead and slide that into this bed about where it's gonna go. Create that note, and it's on my property now.
I bet it saves 6 months of somebody's salary from a sales. And with turning around faster too. So, I mean, it is literally a no-brainer.
Took the chance and started working with you guys, but I continued to build my separate estimate alongside of it to compare, okay, what would I have done if I worked based on averages? And if I remember correctly, it was roughly 0.03 acres per door difference, which equated to about $150,000 price difference from what I would have proposed compared to what I did propose.
It's been a huge tool for us. We like the pricing structure. how the credits work. We like the turnaround time. Give it a try. I think if anybody gives it a try, they're probably not going to.
Maybe like a year ago. And I think that we completely forgot how to do our jobs without it about 6 months ago, which is frustrating in a different.
It's a thing, guys, and it's catching on. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, man. I've been very, very impressed with what you did in the Chicago market using AI measuring. It's insane.
I mean, let's take a little bit and talk about how I employed it and how it changed my career path, essentially, for how I was able to develop. Chicago is an insanely competitive market. I consider probably Chicago, DC, and Atlanta to be the crazy markets in our industry. We're bidding, and I remember when I first got to Chicago, I rolled up to a hospital bid, and there's 8 companies there. I was blown away. I moved to Chicago to work for LCM right after they were acquired by Heartland in July of 2020. And I brought my confidence with me. I wanted to be the best in the market, and I very quickly found out that it was a very difficult market to produce commercial contracts in. My first 6 or 7 months to finish that first close season, I think I finished with a 25% closing percentage and only $450,000 in just contractual maintenance sales, maybe another $200 in snow. And I knew I had to change my entire process if I was going to find success in that market.
Before that, what did you say was a success? Like $450K in 6 months was not a success?
No, nowhere near. Not for me, no. I mean, I've always been $1 million plus in maintenance in any market yearly that I've worked in. So I started to realize that when I was doing these bids, and I can't speak for every major market, but for Chicago in general, on a lot of commercial RFPs, they would essentially say, here's the bid package, here's the maps, here's our spec, you have 30 days to turn it in. The LCM, the other developers there, as well as all the other companies, everybody was waiting to the very last minute to submit their proposals. They don't want anybody else to see their numbers, hold it tight, turn it in last minute. That was kind of the logic. And as I started my first full sales year in Chicago going into 2021, I got introduced to AI site measuring. And I immediately was like, wow, before it would take me, I'd have to go through the property, have an operations manager look at it, put my metrics together, get my bid right. That process would take 2 weeks because I had multiple going on at the same time, sometimes 3 weeks, and I'd be turning it in still around that last minute. Once we were able to introduce AI measurement into our sales process, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. As soon as I would get that RFP in, I would go into my AI measuring. I would literally draw boxes around all the properties or the single property. If it was a really large property, I might divide it into 3 or 4 areas to make it easier to manage for our staff. And I would immediately send that out. A lot of times I would get my measurements back in roughly 24 hours. As soon as I got those measurements back, I'm in the field, I'm going through the property, I'm looking for complexity adjustments, what kind of mower I want to use on certain pieces of the property. And as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going right home. I sit down at my desk, I put the bid together, and usually within 72 hours, I would be calling the client up to have a conversation. Hey, we do really high quality work. We want you to have a great client experience. I want to get my bid turned in immediately to show you how much I want to earn your business. Just little things like that. And a lot of times instantly they're like, well, Patrick, this is our budget. Where are you falling in at? You're a little bit high, but I could make the extra step because I've never had anybody turn this quickly before. So now I'm turning my bid in, usually in under a week on large scale commercial bids. And I've got 3 weeks of working with the client. They've already got my numbers. I've got an open relationship now because we talked budget very early in the sales process. And we're building a relationship while everybody else is still waiting to the last minute to put their leads in. Career-wise, I've always been around maybe like 25, 28% close rate. I finished my first year in the upper 30s after taking on this measuring process.
And that's the whole idea on this GIF that we put here. It's like the time you spend in measuring properties, if you can extend that into prospecting, lead nurturing, account management, like the entire size of the funnel goes up, which is the exact numbers point that you were bringing up.
Oh,
like
yeah.
your numbers.
Yeah, and honestly, I was closing more with less work too, and starting the relationship off with the potential client better than I ever had in my career.
What changed in your relationship with the other guys in your team, like with the production guys once you hired the maps with you?
Okay, so I am very, very big on, I guess there's two styles of sales rep. There's the style of sales rep that goes out, signs a bunch of work, and then as soon as that contract's done, they feel like they're done. I think that style requires a lot more work than the way I operate. When I go out and I sign work with somebody, I want them to have the complete client experience all the way down to the operations in the field, and I want to develop that pipeline. I'm never done with a sale. I am always looking for the next piece, or how can I grow with this relationship that I've already started. If I can start less relationships and have better ones, that's better than going out and cold calling and knocking on every door.
And so when you had the maps with you, your work with the production guys, so like production review or other pieces.
So it's setting up your account manager.
Yeah.
So part when I'm presenting my bid to a client, and I picked up using Loom to walk through my bids. So I'd literally have my screen, and I'd walk through their entire package, how I built their budget, and I'd explain it to them, usually in a 3-minute video. I would also do a site audit of the property at the same time, include that with my bid package. I would show them things that was currently that were good on their property. I'd show areas of improvement. I'd have potential enhancements. I would have all of this spelled out, ready to go into the account manager's hands right at the start once they signed with us. And then the site audit feature and being able to communicate with your client with pictures, descriptions, showing them what's going on, and being fully transparent. I have no problem showing a client that, hey, we missed a bed, it's full of weeds. I want them to see that I'm noticing it before they are. And then in having the account manager continue that site audit process on is absolutely huge, because it's the easiest way to sell enhancements. If you're owning your own mistakes, showing where you're improving, and saying, oh, by the way, you need to put a couple trees in here or do that, when you develop that full transparency relationship, it makes it so much easier to sell enhancements to keep everything moving.
There's also this aspect of the customer actually seeing you took the time to do it, and then also setting a standard, like, look, this is how we communicate, giving them a site audit report when you're in the sales process, and then actually have that set as a standard, look, this is how we do it. And I've found a lot of our customers get big success with their prospects, getting that expectation set up front in the sales process itself.
I mean, definitely, and it's getting your team to buy in. I mean, there's a million different ways I've seen landscape companies built and how they want to operate, and getting your team to buy into a culture that is, we're a service industry. We have to be client facing first. And I tell people all the time, I can't build a company that doesn't aim for 90% retention. Otherwise, I'm just spinning my wheels. I want to build strong pipelines that are going to continue to grow the company without having to necessarily pull in bad revenue streams just to try and get something signed at the end of the year. That's not the way I want to operate.
It was really cool what you said about being able to, once you free up time, then being able to pick the properties you want, being very choosy about it, and that develops the business very differently.
Yeah, definitely. And it was, honestly, it was a beautiful thing getting to work with Heartland. They have a young woman working for them. Her name's Natalie Shaw. She's absolutely brilliant. And some of the stuff that she was building out with ArcGIS and into Power BI and the data that was available to me, that I could see the density by branch. I could see what I had bid on the street, and then I could zoom all the way down in, almost like CoStar, and see the properties in the surrounding area with their contact information, because let's face it, that's all public information. Having that data at my fingertips, it made me a lot pickier as a business developer in this industry, because I knew exactly what I wanted to target and could really get dialed in on that.
Right. It's being proactive about business, right?
Oh, definitely.
Getting nailed down. The software that you use for mapping, and the software that you use for your production and your CRM, they should, in the ideal world, talk to each other, right?
Oh, 100%. Something that really impressed me with SiteRecon is I can filter out if I have issue irrigation on a site audit or issue maintenance or enhancement opportunity, I can literally filter through on who's going to see that. So the staff in the field that have the app that are maintenance, they will see the maintenance issues. They'll have a GPS marker on the site that gets them dialed in. I don't know how many times people in this room where you've had an issue on a property and you send a crew out and you're like, you need to take care of these beds, trim these shrubs in this area, and then somebody goes by to check on them and they did 3 times what the client actually needed. It's all about managing the budget to the client's expectations to keep them satisfied. You don't want to be spinning your wheels, wasting labor on areas that aren't issues.
100%. What do you think about, I think we just talked about all. I want to spend a bit of a time talking about a narrative in our industry where we are focused on doing more and more with one tool because you buy a tool that does a lot of things, and then specialized tools that focus on a piece of the business, right? Deliver more value for that workflow. And then ideally, you would like to have like different tools for different pieces coming together.
Yeah, one thing with working with Gardens of Babylon, something that we're doing is our software stack is absolutely brilliant. And it allows us to communicate and move very fast internally, which has led us to be the fastest growing BOSS company on that platform. And it's not just BOSS. There's no one platform that does it all. You have to build your software stack around what your revenue streams are and the direction you want to go. And essentially, the softwares and the platforms that you want to have and how they're going to communicate and how they're going to drive your business, that's your genetic makeup of your company at this point in the industry. And it's moving and evolving fast. I don't want to work with just one platform that says we can do it all. I want to be able to plug and play what I feel is the best for my company. We're currently working with HubSpot as our CRM. We're going to be using SiteRecon moving forward for measurement of properties. We use Slack for communication. We have a global team of outsourcers that support us. They do a lot of the administration work at a much more affordable clip than what you could pay people in America to do it for, and they're very, very fast, and they're able to access our platforms. If I need a report or a KPI built in HubSpot, I reach out to Virendra. He's our HubSpot guy in India. He'll build it for me, and it shows up on my dashboard a day later. If my team, because you guys know how sales reps are, they're terrible at managing CRMs. We actually have a woman that I'm not sure, maybe believes, but she will move stuff around their pipelines to make sure it's accurate and that I'm getting good data back as I'm working with my sales team. So the ability to mix and match and integrate softwares for what is going to work for your company that's where we're at right now, and it's awesome to see these integrations beginning to happen.
That's the future.
It is.
It's really cool that when you have all those people sub out, you end up freeing that overhead for marketing, right?
For marketing, for better software, you're definitely freeing up some overhead that can be spent on better areas to improve the company. And we've had amazing success with our marketing team as well.
Yeah, I think the more you can control your software stack, you end up controlling the company you want to build, rather than your software stack controlling what you can build with your company.
Mm-hmm. And it's you want to do the research and take your time too, because there's a lot of options out there, and you don't have to jump into anything immediately. Just go out, figure out what direction that you need to go, and pick those pieces of the puzzle up that are going to work best for your organization.
So the system diagram that you guys are seeing on the screen right now is how enterprises stack up their GIS tools with their ERP, how they talk to each other, and just an example of how things will get built up in our industry as well over here. I got a bunch of stuff that I can talk to Patrick about, and we are at the 30-35 minute mark, so I want to open the floor to any thoughts, questions you guys have on mapping, asking Patrick how he ran his sales process, what's next. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just curious about the takeoff. With AI, how much percentage of AI is doing that takeoff, and how much percentage of the takeoff is actually done by someone internally, maybe reviewing that property, maybe through a Street View or Google View? Because what I found with using different takeoffs, that some of that information may not be as accurate. For example, a big problem that I have is with pruning. You know, if you don't know if it's a 2-foot bush or a hedge of 15 feet, and we're getting a measurement of linear feet, well, that's going to be a big difference with production with pruning.
Good question, man. Question everybody needs an answer to. So depending on the property feature you are mapping and the type of property you're mapping, it will vary. Generally speaking, 50 to 60% of all clicks on a property would be done by an AI, right? So if you're, and it's a whole range. So if you're thinking about a residential property where you are just measuring turf, then the odds are like 90% of them will come out in a way that you won't even have to touch them, right? So it's like fully automated, and it's quick too. If you just want to measure lawns, you can get that measured in like 30 seconds on an API, right? So there's no human involved in that loop. On the other side, if you got a big complex HOA with a lot of tree cover, then obviously you're not going to be able to see it through the aerial imagery, right? Guys looking at the street view of it are essentially trying to get around the tree canopy and figure out, okay, what's going on with the landscape below the trees. To your point on shrubs, it's the takeoff tool is not meant to do away with the site visit. Let me state that up front, right? It's meant to help you get closer to the numbers and then save that time, and then on site you pick up on that detail.
Yeah, but your time on site is literally, it went from walking everything, knowing every detail of it, to just literally reviewing complexities and what equipment you want to use in what area, and if you need to add a little bit more time for shrub pruning and stuff like that. But getting those core measurements down quickly saves you a ton of time on your whole entire bid build process for putting together maintenance bids.
Coming from a sales rep who was closing like $2-point-something million a year?
Not too, well, if you include snow.
Yeah.
In my last 24 months in Chicago, I did 3.4 million in maintenance sales and 1.2 in snow, all using measurement software.
And before that, he was struggling, right? Then he did this. Not that, you know, you're not a good sales rep without an AI measuring tool, but
No, I just became a faster, more efficient sales rep.
That's right.
You just mentioned tree canopy cover. Are you just saying, hey, we can't do this part, or this is, do you differentiate that as like, this is our best guess? How do you do that with a lot of
I can actually
tree
speak on that. I ran a 10-acre site through SiteRecon when I first started working with them down in Nashville that had extensive canopy cover. And I went through the property before I actually got the measurement back because it was about 10 minutes from my house. And I'm like, man, they're going to mess this up because there's massive beds underneath, massive pine straw beds underneath a dense tree canopy. And I'm just waiting for it to come back so I can chew holes in it because it seems like fun, you know? Like see what they're not doing right. And it came back with 59,000 square feet of bed space, and they had it spot on underneath the tree canopies. I couldn't have been more impressed. But there is always going to be room for error on any type of mapping like this, and that's why you still have to go and see the site.
The good thing about his property was like we got leaf-off imagery. So all the snow belt states, cities, trees end up shedding leaves, so you can sort of see through it. Street view also helps. And so there's a certain amount of guessing happening when you can't see through and you're just using like the street view to create the map. But if you can like get a top-down view because the trees don't have leaves, then it pretty much becomes spot on.
Hey.
Hey, man.
Have you ever considered any deeper integrations? I know you're doing like acreage, but in the last talk you heard people sort of worried about battery usage. Have you ever considered, adding, maybe there's a way you could say, okay, well, this one maybe you can get done with some of the mowing with X amount of battery or not amount of recharge, or maybe even autonomous usage? Any other deeper integrations in the works for us?
Oh, wow. Forcing me to spill the product roadmap, man. We got competitors here. I'll say this. every like mower would have some sort of a spec on how quickly they consume energy, how they move through the property, and so it would need to be a marriage between a high resolution map of the site that's got obstacles in it, that's got the slope of the turf, other constraints in it, and then having an algorithm run on top of that map, and that algorithm basically understands what the product can do, the mower can do, right? And so the hope would be this algorithm comes from the companies that create the robot, and then we supply the map and we run the analysis. So on the mapping side, I would say it's gone to a point where we can predict where you can put a mower based on the operating parameters of the mower, so you can get that on SiteRecon. But you want to get to the battery, then I think that's another layer of understanding that needs to be developed on it, and in partnership with companies so down to build this out. Not a lot of you guys actually raised your hands when I asked who does AI measuring here. The guys who didn't raise their hands, and they've had a demo from one of the companies, can you tell us why didn't you choose to use it? Be open about it. It's a discussion. All of us will learn. Well, the tree canopies typically turn out to be a reason. There is a reason where people don't want to lose control. They want to do it themselves. It's maybe a thing where you got a guy in the team and they spend a lot of time measuring sites, and then what would they do if they are not measuring sites? Any of these sound familiar?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I've been in this industry almost 20 years, and when I first started, we were paying people full-time salaries to go out and run wheels on all the beds, record the percentage of canopy within the bed, how much turf in given areas. I can't believe where we're at right now, and to think about having to go through all those extra steps to put a bid together is just beyond me now that I've been able to use this technology for the past 2.5 years.
You can't do it without it anymore, right?
I won't go back. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, there we go. Question. Very cool.
So this tool's more geared, or initially has been promoted for salespeople, right, primarily. Do you see a shift going into operations, or a heavier use of operations? Because, for example, a lot of estimates, they've been there. Some of these have been grandfathered in for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, a BD is going after new sales. But what about the account management aspect, where maybe you can review those older estimates more or less? I mean, is there anything, a shift, if you will?
100%. Good question, man. I think taking all those old takeoffs from your system and refreshing them can bring in huge efficiency advantages. There's a company we talk about a lot, Michael Hatcher, in Memphis, Tennessee. They run like an annual scrubbing process on their accounts by looking at how much profit they're making on each of the properties. And the starting point of the process a couple of years ago for them was to get all of their portfolio sites mapped out. And they had old measurements on it. They could, with the new measurements, figure out the time they're spending on site against the size of the site, and actually get more efficient with their production rates. On the account management side, a big change that's coming now is people are running their quality assessments on the platform. So the biggest company in Chicago, revenue-wise, has I think about 70 of their account management account managers in our system running quality assessments. It's getting to a point where their production guys are asking for the access as well, because
Well, we actually, we spoke with a high-end residential company the other day, and that's what I work for now as well. And they were like, well, we're not sending account managers out to look at $6,000 to $8,000 a year sites. We need our production to be able to identify things that are off while they're on there, and can they have access to it? And Utkarsh immediately was like, hey, we can build out an enterprise system that'll work for your company, that'll get you the exact services you need in the right staff members' hands.
So if you want your crews in the system and you want just looking at the data, then it's like you can get them into the system for free. And so all of your guys can, I find it very hard to orient myself when I'm on a property. It's like you see your blue dot on the map, you see it located in the middle of a takeoff, and a service issue that this guy can walk up to. Oh, it's going to save a lot of time.
Then we got one more question here.
Sorry, before that question, I want to say something. To help you get set up, and because you all are here and you didn't take the flight out to get home like the other guys who did this morning, if you scan that QR code, you can book a call with our team, and you can get all of your portfolio sites done with the property boundary and latest updated aerial imagery of your properties for free. So go ahead and scan it. It's going to be there for a few minutes. It's set up. You can print it out. You can get your crews in there. And it's the first step to getting started. Like having that property boundary in there, having that aerial imagery in there, and being able to like just look at that map will get your team to just ask for more and start a culture of documenting more stuff on the map.
This is more of a, I guess, a answer to your question earlier, but we utilized this technology starting last year, and we actually went and had all of our properties mapped, where before there was not good data in our production system,
yeah.
And that was a huge help. And then also sometimes you get opportunities that come in, and there's large portfolio properties all
right.
around different cities, and so having the ability to import all that in and getting data back is, you can't put a price on that. It's invaluable.
I mean, you will just let go of that opportunity, right? If you have a portfolio bid and you can't put that together quickly, I mean, you would rather not do it, rather risk putting up a bid where you will lose massive money. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it. This is the basic, guys. I mean, it's as fundamental as using an email software in your business, using a mapping software, simply because we operate in the outdoor world. And this is just, wanting to help you get started with it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Lawn and landscape.
Thanks, everyone.